131 teams to go. This is team number 1. We're starting out with the SEC as we're going conference by conference in my road to predict all 131 teams. And we're doing the conference's power ranking style, so I think it's no surprise that Vanderbilt is the 14th ranked team in the SEC. Hey, this team has not been relevant for the better part of a decade, but that could start to turn around this year. Vanderbilt's had a couple nice recruiting cycles over the past couple of years. So can the Vanderbilt Commodores start to right the ship and start to make their steady way back into a team that could make a bowl game, or will this be another season of mediocrity and disappointment for the black and gold? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel, and yes, you heard that right. I'm predicting all 131 teams this off season, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your team gets uploaded. You can also leave a like on this video and leave a comment if you would so please. And one thing I'm stressing this year is you guys are going to know your teams better than I will. I'm just a fan looking from the outside in, doing his best and giving my opinions on what I think these teams are going to do this year. So you guys can leave anything you'd like in the comment section down below if you feel like it can help add to the video that I am recording for you guys. And again, we're starting off with Vanderbilt. What I have is the 14th ranked team in the SEC. Let's see what Vanderbilt did last year. Again, not very good. 2-10 overall, 0-8 in the SEC. They posted the SEC's, statistically, the SEC's worst offense and the worst defense in pretty much every metric. Yards per game, pass, rush, and scoring. They just were not very good. But again, as I've said before, they've had a couple nice recruiting cycles, so maybe that can start to turn around for Vanderbilt pretty soon. Let's go ahead and see what Vanderbilt has leaving and what they have coming back. Of course, the head coach is Clark Lee, and I recognize the team has co-offensive and co-defensive coordinators, but I only have room for one name, so I picked either the name that's been with the program the longest or that's, I think, most prevalent in play calling. And again, you can help correct me in the comment section down below if I end up missing something. But that head coach Clark Lee, offensive coordinator Joey Lynch, defensive coordinator Nick Howell. Let's look at some of the talent that is leaving this team. Chris Pierce is gone. That was their leading receiver last year with 654 yards, 2 touchdowns, as well as guys like Cam Johnson and Amir Abdur-Rahman are gone off the receiving core. You lose an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and linebacker that I thought were pretty prevalent, but I think the position group that got hit the hardest for Vanderbilt was their defensive backs. I think no position group got hit harder. Gabe Judy Lally, 50 tackles last year. That was 5th on the team. Brendan Harris was a pretty solid piece there, as was Alan George, and Deshaun Jerkins gone as well. Deshaun Jerkins had 3 picks. That was tied for the team lead. So they're going to need some other guys to help boost, to go ahead and help boost that defensive backcourt, and they did get a transfer that I'll talk about in a little bit. But what they have coming back, still some good pieces. You got Ken Seals, Mike Wright, figure to be battling it out for that quarterback position. Let's see here. Ken Seals had 1,181 yards, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. Mike Wright had 1,042 yards on less pass attempts, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So if you're going off of last year's stats, probably want to go with Mike Wright as that starting quarterback. But I think Ken Seals would be a fine choice as well. He's just got a couple things that he might need to work on in order to get that passing ability back to probably where it can be for Ken Seals. In terms of running back, you got Rocco Griffin, Ramon Davis coming back. Rocco Griffin was that leading rusher last year with 517 yards and 4 touchdowns. But there's been a lot of hype surrounding Ramon Davis, so he can probably push that way into the starting running back spot. At the wide receiver position, you got guys like Will Shepard and Devin Body coming back. And again, I apologize if I mispronounce any names, as well as tight end Ben Bresnahan. But you do have a wide receiver coming in Jaden McGowan, a freshman who figures to be a pretty solid option at the wide receiver position as well. In terms of the defensive side, you got a couple defensive linemen coming back. But I think the linebacking group is going to be the strongest part of this team. Ethan Barr, who is also tied for the team lead, with Jerkins, who has since gone with interceptions, with 3, did have 4 pass defended, and Ethan Barr was leading tackler as well. But I think the best defensive player on this team is Offerny Orji, who had 71 tackles last year. I think he's going to be a huge part, as well as guys like Michael Owusu, Kane Patterson coming in as well. At the defensive back position, you got guys like Jalen Mahoney, Maxwell Worship that were on this team last year. Both were top 5 tacklers on the team, both with 2 picks. But you're also getting a defensive back transfer from, I believe, UConn, and that's Jeremy Lucien, who should provide a nice boost to this Vanderbilt Commodores team. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look now at Vanderbilt's schedule, and they are one of the few teams that play in week 0. So they have Hawaii, Elon, very hard non-conference game against Wake Forest, on the road against Northern Illinois, the reigning Mid-American champions, and then you get into SEC play, and it does not get easier from there. Bama, then you get your bye week, Ole Miss, Georgia on the road, Missouri on the road, at home against South Carolina, on the road against Kentucky. Then you finish out with 2 home games against Florida and Tennessee. And again, for Vanderbilt, it's going to be a hard SEC schedule every year. They are the bottom team in the SEC. They have been for what feels like a very long time. And it doesn't help, too, that Vanderbilt has pretty tough non-conference games. Again, Hawaii is not a team to take lightly, and Northern Illinois won the Mid-American last year. Wake Forest was ACC runner-up. The only, guarantee I see on the schedule for Vanderbilt is Elon, the Phoenix. They're not a very good team by FCS remarks, so should be able to get the win there. Speaking of which, I'm not going to be predicting game by game this year, right? What instead I'm going to be doing is giving you an overall idea on how well I think teams are going to do in their games per se. So I've highlighted every date, and every color corresponds to a percentage, and that is what I'm determining as the team's win percentage in the game. So red is you're probably not going to win the game. Orange is, well, you're still probably not going to win the game, but maybe a slight or heavy upset could happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or upset potential games. Yellow-green are games where you're probably going to win, but an upset could happen. And green is you might as well book it as a win. And the only game you see in a green here is, of course, the game I just talked about with Elon. Really is the only guaranteed win I see with Vanderbilt on the schedule, because I think on the road against Hawaii, week 0, I know Hawaii's not necessarily the toughest environment in college football, but that's usually a solid football team, and they're not to be taken lightly. And, of course, Northern Illinois, look, I know they're losing quite a bit, but they're still the MAC champions from last year, and playing on the road as well. Now, I don't think Northern Illinois is going to be as good as last year, but I still think that's a game that Vanderbilt has got to take some cautious approach to. Of course, that game against Wake Forest, I just don't see them winning that. I also don't see them beating the likes of Alabama, Georgia, or Kentucky. So Vanderbilt's going to win some games this year. They're going to have to do it in non-conference because this SEC slate is tough. Maybe if you had Missouri at home, that game might be in yellow there. But there are some very, very tricky games on the schedule for Vanderbilt. And for the talent that is on this team, I just don't know how much Vanderbilt is going to be able to do. Again, that game against Wake Forest. Let's go ahead and count, shall we? Wake Forest, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Kentucky, and possibly Tennessee. So that's 6 teams right there that figure to have a national ranking coming in to this season. So, I mean, hey, it helps that I guess Vanderbilt gets Wake Forest at home, but I still really don't see a way Vanderbilt can pull out that game. I think Wake Forest is going to be too talented, and Vanderbilt has not won an SEC game in a very long time. If you want to look for a game where Vanderbilt could possibly win one in the SEC, I'd probably look towards that Missouri or South Carolina game, the middle of their SEC schedule. I don't see them pulling off a home upset against Florida or Tennessee. I know Florida is kind of going on a little bit of a downhill trend right now, but I think in a couple of years Florida will be back, but that's still a much better team than this Vanderbilt team. But I think this Vanderbilt team is going to have a lot of fight in them this year. I think they're going to have a drive power under Clark Lee, but I just don't know that the results are going to be there this year. So I got Vanderbilt going 2-10 again, and which means, yeah. So I'm going to have them beating Elon, but then I have them losing one of those 2 non-conference games. And more likely than not, I see them losing that game to Northern Illinois on the road. However, they could win that game and then beat Hawaii on the road. But hey, I could see this Vanderbilt team starting out 2-0 and then losing their next 10 games. That is very, very possible, and it's something that, well, Vanderbilt's done before, right? For floor and ceiling, floor is 1-11, because again, I could see them losing both those games on the road. They're teams that you should not be taken lightly. They're not tough environments, as I've mentioned, but you still shouldn't take any of those teams lightly. And 4-8, I see as that ceiling. I think you can win those 3 non-conference games, besides the game against Wake Forest, of course. And then, hey, maybe you pull out a win in SEC play. So I think 4-8's the ceiling. I do like a lot of players on this team. I think Orgy is pretty good. I do like Rocco Griffin, Ramon Davis, and I think Jaden McGowan, given some time and some experience, can be a pretty good wide receiver down the road for Vanderbilt. I just don't know that the results are going to be there this year. It's a very hard schedule. And for Vanderbilt to make a bowl game this year, it's going to be a very, very tough ask. But for 2022, I got Vanderbilt going 2-10. So that's going to do it for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Again, there are going to be more videos up today. I believe 2 more, where we do the 13th and 12th ranked teams in the SEC, in my opinion. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to play hard, tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys later today. Goodbye.